Hey guys! Thank you guys to everyone who joined me yesterday for my live talk about how to help survivors in quarantine. I really appreciate you being there and being interested in helping. Today I want to kind of snowball off that and dive a little bit deeper into how to help as far as building a safety plan. Right now, we're super limited on resources. People can't go to support groups. Therapy is not really in session unless you're doing it on like via Zoom or via FaceTime. So it's really hard to get to the resources you need. Art therapy and things like that that require you to go somewhere is really hard. And on top of that, you're not safe doing it as a survivor or as a person that's still in the abusive household because your abuser is there. So you don't really have a chance to heal, and any sort of attempt to get out and heal could be thwarted, could put you and your family and your kids in more danger. So we just want to avoid that. The best thing to do right now is to safety plan. So I have three sections of safety planning. There's the before you leave, when you're leaving, and after you leave, just like the follow-up. And there's a lot of steps in each of them, but they're all really important. And so if you're an advocate wanting to help people, I am absolutely happy to send this list to you, to send this list to anyone who might need it, so that you can help other people, you can help survivors be safe while they're in quarantine and have everything prepared and ready to go when we're out of quarantine, so they don't have to worry about putting everything together really fast and getting out. They have their ducks in a row, they have a plan, in action, ready to go when they're ready to leave. So, the first thing is before you leave. Before you leave, there's a lot of preparation work. There's, making sure you have a journal. Start a journal and document any abuse, any threats, dates, times, details, everything, what happened after, everything. Make sure it's a very detailed document in a journal and hide the journal. Take pictures as well and keep them either, don't print them out and put them in the journal, but keep them either in like a separate album or a secret album. I know that on phones there's like secret calculator apps and a bunch of apps that pretend to be something else, but you can hide pictures in them so that they're not actively on your phone and they're not accessible to anyone who doesn't have a password. I used to have one just to see how it worked, and it was a calculator. I think you can Google it, but it's not really a calculator. It opens up the app to what looks like a calculator, and then you put in a password, and it opens up 2 photo albums. And hide it in a safe place. Hide your journal and any documentation you have of documented abuse in a safe place, somewhere where they won't find it and won't even look for it. So I never recommend an underwear drawer for that, because that's like a very surface level place to look. The survivor knows their abuser best. So anywhere that they don't think the abuser would look. So maybe like under the utensils in the utensil drawer in the kitchen, or under the sink, or in the bathroom cupboard, somewhere where it won't be an issue, where the abuser won't look. Make sure you stay hidden. It could put you in more danger if they see that you're documenting the abuse. Make a list of local shelters or places to run to. I would keep an ongoing list of local crisis centers, local shelters, advocacies, police departments, places that you can go and people you can call that will be helpful for you in the transition and will keep you safe. Anything important. Shelters are the safest option because, like I said yesterday, you don't want to go to a place that where they know you'll be. It's easier to track if you go to a family or friend's house, and it could be putting a family member or friend in danger. Everyone's pretty bored right now, so it's not unheard of that they'll come try and find you and break down doors and hurt people to get to the survivor. That's not an unheard of thing. So we want to try and keep everyone safe and just have that list available. Put it in you can roll it up and put it in like an old lipstick tube that you don't use anymore, clean out the lipstick and put it in your purse if you're a woman. If you're a man, get creative and put it, I don't know, in your socks or like somewhere where the abuser won't look for it, but you know where it is. You can even put it in your journal if you have a good hiding spot for it so that everything is together, but make sure you're keeping a list. You can call up shelters and nonprofits and see what kind of programs they have available for after quarantine is lifted. You can see about support groups and therapy. A lot of places are giving free therapy through the nonprofits for survivors, or art therapy, or anything you need. But keep a listing. Be mindful of what's available to you, so that as soon as you're out, you can start healing, and you're not sitting and just living and ruminating in that fear. You can start working on yourself so you don't go back, and so you don't have any interest in going back and can feel safe and secure. Something that's really hard, but I always recommend, you should tell a family member or a friend, somebody who's close to you, who you can trust and rely on for support and empowerment about what's going on. You absolutely should. And it's not because, you need them right now, or, because you can't handle it. Nobody is saying that you cannot handle it. It is just about having a person there to support you, and having a person that is your confidant, that can vouch for you or can go with you to the police station if you wanted to get a restraining order, which I definitely always recommend, but totally understand when people don't want to do that. Having somebody that won't judge you is really, really great. It's a great support. You identify somebody that you can rely on for emotional support, and call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They're always there to talk. They are trained advocates. They're great. Or a local hotline, but I love the domestic violence, the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I think they're great. And just a little side note, I'm actually putting together with my amazing colleague Stacy, we're putting together a hotline for my nonprofit, Within Your Reach, and hopefully it'll go into effect and be fully functional and totally staffed by the end of April, in which case you can also call us, and when that number is solidified and available, I will absolutely make it very well known. But that will be a place where people can call to build a safety plan and to be informed and aware of what they can be doing to keep them safe, them and their families safe and ready for after quarantine, and also to help with connecting to resources and support and for venting and advice, anything they need. But that's in the works. So as soon as that's up and running, or with any updates, I will absolutely let everyone know. If there's ever an emergency, or if there's ever any violence, go to a doctor or a hospital and ask for a documentation of your visit. Any documentation that you went there and were hurt is going to be helpful in the long run. It's painful, it's embarrassing, it can make you feel bad, but it's a good resource to have, and it's a place where you're safe, and they will do whatever they can to take care of you. I've been working with nurses from Simmons University and Aspen University for a couple of years now, and every semester I do a talk with them about how they can be better, and that information is hopefully spreading and all over the country. I really hope it is, and if not, I'm happy to talk to any nursing staff about this. I think that it's really important that nurses and advocates know exactly what they need to be doing. But hospitals can give you documentation that can help you with restraining orders, and can help you with the legal process if you need it or want it, and can help you with child custody. Having everything documented, time, date, is really just all for your benefit. And it's, like I said, it can be embarrassing, and it can make you feel ashamed, and it can make you feel whatever, but it's for the future. It's helpful. Make a safety plan with your children if you have children. The best thing to do is communicate so that they have a safe spot to go if there's any explosions, if there's any aggressive behavior or any violence. get them a place to go. Make sure they know that their job is to stay safe for them and not to stick up for you. It could put them in more danger. So have them go to a neighbor's house or have a place outside that they can meet or go to a room and lock the door. Just make sure you establish some sort of immediate safety plan for now while you're still in it with your children to keep them safe. Kids are much more observant than we give them credit for. Kids see everything, they hear everything, and they learn and they absorb information really, really fast. So even if they are outside of the room or downstairs and it's happening upstairs, they can still hear it. So having that open communication with your kids and saying, this behavior, you know, it's just for now, but let's keep ourselves safe. And then as soon as, you know, it's safe, we can leave and we can get out and we can be safe. But for now, the most important thing is to stay safe and not hurt and alive. And don't say alive, that's too scary. But, you know, find a way to talk to your children and tell them that this is temporary. You need to keep yourself safe. I'll be fine. For women, when it comes to the legal system, womenslaw.org is a great resource. It has state-by-state legal information. I'll type that in the chat. Womenslaw.org. Hold on. Womenslaw.org. It's a great resource to go to get information, to learn anything about the legal system in your state when it comes to restraining orders or leaving or child custody. And they have great people that you can talk to and learn from and pick their brain and ask questions. I would suggest doing that in a safe place, outside of wherever your abuser is, especially in quarantine. Everyone's in tight quarters, so we just don't want to put ourselves in an unsafe situation. But it's good to have some background knowledge, take some notes, put it in the same journal as everything else, and hide it. I covered this a little bit yesterday, but start stashing money aside. You know, even if it's pennies, anything you could find, throw it in a sock, throw it in a boot, hide it in your closet, just a boot you barely wear, or a piece of clothing you barely wear, or a place where your abuser won't go to look. Start stashing away money. If you have a family member or a friend who can help you open a bank account or can put money away for you, that can be really, really helpful. So at least you have a small reserve at the very least for when quarantine is over, you're able to get out. Ally Bank is an online bank. There's no brick or mortar buildings. You do everything online. It's great. It's easy to open an account. It takes literally 3 seconds. That's a great resource to have. There's also Capital One 360, and every bank, I'm pretty sure you can open an account online without actually being there. Problem is getting money into it. So talk to family members and see if you can, you know, give them pennies or quarters, and if they can just put that into the account for you or transfer that money into an account for you so you have some sort of reserve when you leave. Be as discreet with all of this as possible. Be as discreet as possible. The whole goal of safety planning is to keep yourself safe, to not do anything that's going to put you in more danger than you're already in. Another thing you can do is subtly start to pack things that they won't notice are missing. So I'm not saying take your toothbrush and toothpaste out of the holder, throw it in a backpack, and throw it in a closet, because they're going to notice that that's not there. You know, if your shampoo and conditioner are gone or your medication is gone, that's all stuff that they're going to notice is missing. So take little things, pieces of clothing, 1 or 2 kids' toys if you have kids, and start putting them in bags or purses or backpacks or suitcases, something that you can hide, but they won't notice. Necessities, not just things. You can't take your whole house. You don't want to take your whole house. You're going to want to take, I am going to get into this in a second, but you're going to want to take the things that you will need immediately. Shelters have hygienic things like toothbrushes and toothpaste and shampoos, so you don't need to worry about that stuff immediately. Take the necessities, take things that are important and things that they won't notice are missing. So when you're leaving, there is a huge list of important things that you need to take, which is why I say start doing it a little bit now. You know, that way, as soon as you're ready to go, if your abuser goes off to work or goes to the store for an hour or goes to a bar when they open back up, whatever the case may be, you can get all the stuff together and get out, and you are gone, and you don't have to worry. You know, you have a plan in place. So when you're leaving, you have to make a plan before you're leaving of where you're going to go, how you're going to get there, what time you're leaving, and you can request a police escort or a police standby when you're leaving. They are happy to do it. They just make sure that you get out safe, and if your abuser comes back, they won't allow them to come near you. You know, they won't allow them to intervene. I grabbed this list off the National Domestic Violence Hotline website. I went through it 2 or 3 times to make sure they didn't miss anything, and they didn't. They're very good at this. Okay, so you're going to want 4 different things. You're going to want identification, legal papers, emergency numbers, and then immediate necessities. So here's a list of all the things, and I will happily post this in the comments or, you know, whatever, wherever people want it. But these are the things that the National Domestic Violence Hotline recommends taking when you're leaving an abusive situation. Driver's license, birth certificate and children's birth certificates, social security cards, financial information, money and or credit cards that are in your name that they do not have access to, checking and or savings account books, legal papers, protective orders, copies of any lease or rental agreement or the deed to your home, car registration and insurance papers, health and life insurance papers, medical records for you and the children, school records, work permits, green cards, visas, passports, divorce and custody papers, and marriage license. Emergency numbers, I know I went over this before, but make sure you have these. Your local police and or sheriff's department, local domestic violence program or shelter, friends, relatives, and family members, your local doctor's office and hospital, county or district attorney's office. And then for necessities, we have medications that you or the kids would need, extra set of house and car keys, valuable jewelry, a pay-as-you-go cell phone. That's really important, and I'll get into that in a second. An address book, pictures and sentimental items, several changes of clothes for you and your children. A lot of times shelters will also have clothes for you to take. But it's good to have at least a couple changes of clothes. It's comforting to know that you have your own stuff and you're living in your own stuff and you're nice and warm in your comfortable clothes. Emergency money, that's where the reserve comes in. Clothes, blankets, and small toys for children. And hygiene items and necessities. Like I said, they'll have those at the shelters. A lot of them get a ton of donations from like Mary Kay and Avon because those are huge companies that really support this philanthropy. And then after you're leaving, these are 14 recommendations. There's a lot to safety planning, but it's really so important that you cover all of it to do as soon as you're out, or as soon as you're ready when you're out. I would say like within the first week. Change your locks and your phone number. You can call a telephone company to request caller ID change or change your number, and ask if the phone number can be locked. So if you call anyone, neither you or your partner will be able to track it. Ask work to change your hours and change your route to work. It's really easy to, you have a routine and they have a routine and they know your routine, right? If somebody is in desperate need of control, which is what abuse is, it's power and control over a person, and that can be physical force or emotional, stalking, all those things, they will know your work schedule, and they most likely will not hesitate to wait outside of work when you should be leaving. So if you shift your hours by an hour, go in an hour earlier and leave an hour earlier, or go in an hour or 2 later and leave 2 hours later, it'll throw off that control and they won't be able to get to you. And also change your route to work. Don't drive the same way that you used to. Change the route you take to bring your kids to school, if you're even keeping them in the same school. If you leave the town, a lot of the times the school or the shelter will provide some sort of transportation or some sort of ability to get your kid to that school, but you might want to consider changing your children's school as well, again, for the same reason, they know when your kid goes to school and when your kid leaves school, and you want to maintain safety. You want to keep everybody safe. You definitely, I would consider contacting the school and giving them a heads up of what's going on. You don't have to give them a ton of details, but you can say, listen, my significant other, my spouse, we left because we were in danger, and I don't want them to be able to come to the school and pick up the child. Can we take them off the okay to pick up list or whatever it's called, and disallow them from having that access to your child? Keep a copy of your restraining order, a certified copy, everywhere. Have one with you at all times, in your car, in your bag or purse or briefcase or backpack. And I also definitely recommend alerting your neighbors, alerting friends and family of what's going on. Again, you don't need to give them a ton of details, but it's really important that you stay safe and your neighbors know that you are trying to stay safe and what's happening, so that they don't give information to your abuser for them to come find you. And I also recommend giving them a certified copy of the restraining order so that they are prepared if your abuser goes to them and tries to break down their door or tries to get into their home, they can call the police and say, listen, they're looking for this person. This abuser is looking for this victim. They are aggressive and trying to get into my home. It just keeps everybody safe and informed. I definitely recommend doing that with, like I said, friends, family, neighbors. Keep everybody safe. Keep yourself safe. Keep your family safe. Request that your neighbors, family, and friends call the police if they feel like you might be in danger, if they feel like the victim might be in danger, if they notice that the abuser is looking for them or acting aggressively or irrationally or saying things and making threats. Have them call the police and say, this is a violation of the restraining order, or this person's in danger and this abuser is acting irrationally and making threats. That's all a violation of restraining orders. So we want to try and, again, make sure everybody is safe. Call law enforcement to enforce the order. Give certified copies to your neighbors. Consider renting a P.O. box or changing your address to a family member or a friend's address. That way mail is forwarded away from the abuser. They don't have any indication of what's going on in your life, any idea of where you are. They can't track that if they don't have your mail. A P.O. box is probably safer because you have to go to a public place to get the mail to actually collect it. But you have to remember that your address will be available on police reports and your address will be available on restraining orders. So just keep that in mind. I think that's why a P.O. box is a little bit safer than putting on your parents' address or your sibling or friend's address. Just they can't come find you at a P.O. box. They can come find you at a friend's house. Reschedule any appointments that your abuser might be privy to. If you have a doctor's appointment in a couple weeks, or you get your hair done every Tuesday at 3, or whatever the case may be, change it. Change it because, again, it goes back to control. They know when you do things. They know your schedule. They know your routine. Change it. It is so uncomfortable changing routines. We humans are creatures of habit. We love routine. We love habit. It is so comforting. But it's also putting yourself in an unsafe situation, putting your family in an unsafe situation. You want to try and negate that at any opportunity. You want to try and get out of those routines so that you cannot be tracked. Don't shop at your usual places. I know that I always go grocery shopping at like the same 2 places. And if I had to leave, if I was in danger, going to those 2 places could put me in danger because my significant other knows that that's where I go to shop. And they would know that that's where they would find me. So changing places you shop, grocery stores, clothing stores, try and, again, it's uncomfortable, but get out of your comfort zone. You are already putting yourself in a very uncomfortable place. You may as well start from scratch. Keep yourself safe, If you leave and go to another apartment instead of a shelter, or when you leave the shelter and go to an apartment or a house, or, rent a new place, you can't always do this, but try and get metal doors because you can't break through them, or at least get locks and a security system. It's very important. And motion, I think I have this later in the thing, but motion sensitive lights are also really cool. Even if they're just little night lights, they're really good, because if somebody, for example, if your abuser breaks into your house or breaks into your apartment in the middle of the night and lights start going on, you'll know it's not you. You'll know somebody's in the house, and it's a good way of keeping yourself safe. It's just an additional security blanket, if you will, or a security measure, if you will. Tell your coworkers and your employer what's going on. That way, if your abuser tries to contact you at work, there's a wall there to stop it. You know, they won't forward you their calls. See if sometimes in companies, a receptionist can screen your call before they send them to you or before they transfer them to you. Have one receptionist know what's going on so they can screen your calls, and if it's your abuser or anything about that, they can just hang up and not get it to you, not let them know that you're there, not have you interact at all. Employers, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like generally are pretty good about things like that and taking care of their employees, especially because it affects their work retention and productivity. So just have like a real conversation with your boss or your employer and say, I'm unsafe at home. I just left. They are definitely going to try and contact me. I'm not trying to cause drama or any disturbance in the workplace, but I need to keep myself and my family safe, and I'd really appreciate, you know, if we could keep this environment safe as well. And a lot of people tend to have a soft spot. Everybody knows somebody that's gone through this, or they've gone through it themselves, and can be very helpful in that regard. You would probably also want to have that conversation when you're changing your hours, explaining why as a safety precaution for you. Inform anyone who has access to your kids, including their school, people who carpool with you, or have any access to your kids, take care of them, about what's going on. That way, and provide them a copy with the restraining order. That way, they don't drop your kids off with the abuser, and they can be used as tools or pawns to get back to you. It's just a matter of, you know, securing yourself and making sure everybody is informed and understanding of what's happening. If shared custody is an issue, I actually used to do this when I worked at a safe house. If shared custody is an issue, you can contact a police department. I recommend outside your town, you know, where the safe house in New Jersey that I worked at used to be. We would go to a town 2 or 3 towns away, about 15 or 20 minutes, and that is where we would do a soft handoff of the child. So you can contact a police department and say, hey, I have split custody or shared custody with my abuser. I don't want to be with them because they are manipulative and it puts me in danger, but unfortunately they do have access to the children. Can we do a soft handoff of the child here? I'll bring the child here at 4:45, and my abuser will come, or their parent will come at 5 o'clock and pick them up. So for 10 or 15 minutes, the child will just sit in the waiting room. A police officer will sit with them and hang out, play with a toy, read a book, whatever. And then the abuser will come pick them up. So we used to do that when I was in the safe house, and it worked out really well because it would save the survivor from having to interact and be in an unsafe situation where they could possibly be manipulated or hurt in a private or public setting. And there are police around, so if anything is funny or if anything, you know, goes wrong, law enforcement is right there to handle it. And a lot of the time they're happy to do it. Just call it and arrange it with a dispatcher or with a police officer. And it's a safety precaution. Communicate with your children, if you have children, without bashing the other parent or without bashing the abuser, because that's going to get back to them or cause some sort of disturbance, and it could possibly affect you, or it could put you or the child in danger. You don't want to do that. You just want to communicate and say, this is how it is right now, but we're handling it, and if anything happens while you're there, if they put their hands on you or hurt you or say anything or do anything to you that makes you uncomfortable, you have to know that it's okay, it's not your fault, and you can tell me that way. A, keeping the child safe and knowing that they have support and a place to go if they need it. And B, having that open communication allows them to trust and to know that they're safe. Find local resources through crisis centers and nonprofits. There are thousands, I said this before, but there are thousands of free programs, especially for children. But there's free therapy, there's free support groups, there's online forums on Facebook and Reddit and all of these places where you can share your story and feel safe and feel supported, and people are there to help you. Even if they're not professionals, it's still a resource. You know, having somebody in your corner, having somebody you can relate to and talk to where you know you won't be judged or shamed or feel embarrassed because they've also been through it is really important. Breaking your silence is the first step to healing. In the Rue approach, which I've created, the Rue approach to healing from abuse, that is step number 1 in healing from abuse. It's from start to finish. So once you break your silence, you are really allowing yourself to open up, and you're really allowing yourself to take that weight off your shoulders and know that you're not alone and you're surrounded by a loving, empowering community. And that's so important. There are, like I said, tons of nonprofits around for abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault. My nonprofit, Within Your Reach, we created a community for people to feel safe and comfortable speaking about their abuse and breaking their silence. I have a friend in Chicago. Her name is Elena Hampton. She just won a civil suit against a political party for sexual misconduct and sexual harassment. She is in the process of putting together a nonprofit that will provide free resources to survivors of sexual assault and sexual harassment all around Chicago. As soon as that's up, I'm so excited to tell everyone about it because she wants to do the same amazing things that I'm like dying to do. Trauma-informed yoga and meditation and just free programs that'll really, really help you heal. There's RAINN, which has amazing hotlines, rainn.org, RAINN.org. 180 Turning Lives Around in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Every county in New Jersey has their own center with a ton of free resources and activities and programs for survivors and parents of survivors and children. I also have a self-care calendar that I have created called 365 Days of Transformation. In 365 Days of Transformation, you have 365 techniques, methods, and activities to do to help you heal from your abuse. They're all easy to use and fun and keep you engaged, and you can easily weave them into your daily life. And that is the whole purpose, is to make healing a part of your daily life, because after abuse, you feel broken or empty or sad and depressed and ashamed and embarrassed, and that's not your burden to bear. So I want to make that known, you know, that is not your burden, and you can heal from this, and you can live the best life ever, one day at a time. And there's a million different ways to heal, and 365 of them are accessible to you right now in 365 Days of Transformation. Last but not least, number 14 on After You Leave, change passwords on emails and accounts that they might have access to. Change it to something ridiculous that they'll never guess. That way they can't track you, they can't figure out where you are, what you're doing, they can't spy on you, they can't access your bank accounts, they can't do anything. Make sure you keep yourself safe, keep your family safe. The whole purpose of safety planning is just making sure you are safe from right now, this exact minute, putting everything in place to after you leave, after quarantine, which we don't know when that is yet, but the sooner you get started and the more meticulous you are and the more sneaky you are, the better for everyone. Thank you guys for joining me today. If anybody has any questions about safety planning or wants, I have a personalized safety plan PDF that you can use or provide to somebody who needs it. I also have the full list of things that you need, from beginning to when you're leaving to after. I'm happy to send that out to anyone who wants it. I'm probably going to put it in a PDF and put it on the Facebook page, just so people can access it anytime. Any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and have a great night. Stay safe and healthy.